You're listening to Don't IEP Alone with special education advocate Lisa Lightner. For more information about Lisa, the IEP Toolkit, and more ways we can help you in your process, go to adayinourshoes.com. Now back to the show with your host, Lisa.
Good morning. Actually, no, it's a shitty morning. And I will try not to cry and freak out and curse and all that stuff. Once again, I find myself saying, hey, this is not the episode I had planned to publish today. But of course, after the inauguration, things are moving quite quickly. And so I scrapped that episode. Maybe I'll schedule it Thursday or Friday. And I want to get this one up today because I want to talk about Medicaid. I want to talk about what's going on with the new administration and the federal government, and keep you informed. And listen, if you're a red voter, if you vote MAGA and all that good stuff, I'm genuinely asking you to please look, listen, hear, learn, evaluate with some real critical thinking skills as far as what's going on right now. Because, you know, if I say it all the time in my online training, Dale Carnegie's advice from 1937, people do not like to be told that they are wrong. When people are told that they are wrong, it's not often that someone says, oh, thank you, I've seen the light, I'm going to change my ways. When you confront someone and tell them that they're wrong, the most likely outcome is that they're going to dig in their heels even more. People do not like to be told that they are wrong. Again, it's in Dale Carnegie's, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a great read 100 years later. I refer to it often. And it applies here because I think that we've definitely seen this with MAGA as far as, people do not like to be told that he is wrong. And as someone who runs a very large Facebook page with over 150,000 people on it, and someone who is very vocal about my political views and not afraid to say what I mean what I say. And I am absolutely a progressive blue voter. I make no apologies for that. I am open to the criticism of the Democratic Party, and I criticize them myself often because they do make mistakes. We're not perfect. There's a lot of things I would like to change about the Democratic Party, but for me and my family, it's the better choice to align myself with. So this week, and now look we're only 1 full week past Inauguration Day, right? We've only had 7 complete days since Inauguration Day. And the amount of executive orders that are coming out is not just astounding. Most of them are unconstitutional. We have Congress, we have a constitution, we have systems in place for these things to happen. And MAGA people won the House, you won the Senate, you won the White House, you own the Supreme Court. So go through the process, right? You have the votes. So go ahead and go through the process to push through your policies and agendas if that's what you need to do. These unconstitutional executive orders that are even overriding Supreme Court decisions. Congress controls the purse strings. This is one of our most fundamental, things from being an American. We vote for Congress, and Congress controls how our tax dollars are spent. The president does not decide this. That's not our system. And so you can't just turn it on and turn it off because you're the president. And moreover, the decisions that he's making, of course, the one that I'm most concerned with and the most personal to me is the freezing all federal funding, and Medicaid gets caught up in that. And there are 13 million Americans who rely on Medicaid for their health care, my son being one of them. So that means 13 million Americans woke up today without access to their health care. And now The program itself is still in existence, right? He didn't cancel Medicaid. What he did was he froze the federal spending. I had some weird scenarios, and at the time, I just thought they were very weird scenarios, but not terribly unusual, right? Over the past, Kevin's an adult. So over the past 18, 19 years, I've certainly had my run-ins with insurance companies and service providers and billing and, all that stuff. I've had more than my fair share of incidents and frustration with that. But I had an incident over the weekend with not being able to access his rescue meds, and insurance wouldn't pay for it. And, went to the pharmacy and they said, insurance won't pay for it. And then they said, you have to call your insurance company. And I called my insurance company and they said, oh yeah, we'll pay for it. And then we went back and it was just this whole thing. Thankfully, the customer service was open on Saturday afternoon, but I literally spent my entire Saturday afternoon from 2 to 5 working on getting his rescue meds, which should have been paid for by Medicaid. And it's the first time that's ever happened. I've never not been able to access rescue meds. Then it came up with January 31st, which is not even here yet, is his renewal date. And so I ran into all these issues with renewing his Medicaid. And I don't think that this is a coincidence. It's just not a coincidence that things have been running smoothly for years, not many issues. Then all of a sudden there's a new administration, a federal spending freeze, and all of a sudden I can't access our Medicaid. So this is the scenario that, 13 million Americans are waking up to. And all of these pharmacies, all of these service providers, all of these schools. So that Medicaid pays for, it sends billions to our public schools every year, pays for things like school nurses, school counselors, of course, things that are health related. So Medicaid isn't just about health care plans for disabled people or low income people. It pays for a lot more things. So all these people are waking up today, school districts, pharmacies, doctors, related service providers, and they're going to try to bill Medicaid and they're going to be denied because there's a federal spending freeze. It's not going to be accessible. There's reports all over the internet that none of the states can access the website, which, needless to say, is causing panic, and as it should. We should be concerned. So again, the program exists, but if you can't, it doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account if you can't spend any of it, right? It's meaningless if the program's there, but no one can access it, and disabled people cannot access their healthcare. And people are going to die from this. If this doesn't get fixed, people are going to die. People are going to be turned away. Businesses, are going to go out of business. We're already seeing this over and over with hospitals going under and things like that because of how dysfunctional our insurance system is. So anyway, so that's the federal spending issue. So another piece of this, though, is I wish these MAGA voters would, I'm sorry that you voted for a candidate who is doing this. In addition to when we're talking about a federal spending freeze, one of the things that gets caught up in this is the bipartisan, which means both parties were on board with it, the bipartisan bill for infrastructure. And that means, fixing roads and bridges and airports and, sewer lines and water lines and electric and all these different things that make up our country's infrastructure. We're in this giant infrastructure bill that was going to be federally funded because our infrastructure is so incredibly outdated. So that has been halted. Not, it's not just Democrats who dislike driving on crappy roads. It's not just Democrats who are inconvenienced when bridges are shut down because they're deemed to be unsafe. And then you have all these detours all over the place. I don't know about you guys, but we have them all over here because, Philadelphia is an older area. So our bridges tend to be older. Our entire infrastructure is a little bit older than other parts of the country because people kind of came here as one of the first places. But it's not only blue voters who are inconvenienced by this kind of thing. And it's not only blue voters who run the construction companies and the engineering firms and all these other, this whole entire cottage industry that gets a government contract to do the work. So it's not only blue voters, who he's going to get by this particular spending cut. And not only that, but again, Congress controls the purse strings. He doesn't have the authority to do this. And the bill was bipartisan. It passed. Both parties were on board with it because both parties realized that, first of all, our government does have the money to do this, and it's necessary. Our infrastructure is terrible. So that's just another example of where you have to say, like, hey, if you want to own the libs, go for it. But you're shooting your own self in the foot, too. So, that's that. Let's see. What else happened this week? Oh, I put this in the Facebook group. If you're not in the Facebook group, look up Stepping Up for Disabled Kids. If you want to join our movement to reach out and call and text and email these folks about what's going on. But if you haven't been following them on Facebook, the U.S. Department of Ed has clearly been taken over by propagandists, and they're putting out all kinds of nonsense. They have completely redone the Section 504 components of the website as pertains to Office of Civil Rights and our kids' civil rights and things like that. I do have a post in there, thanks to Gina. There was research done as far as what the old website said and what the new website says as pertains to our kids. So you can take a look at that. But I mean, this is serious stuff, folks. It's, first of all, it's unconstitutional. So just because you may agree with what's going on or you may agree with the changes, you can't argue that the process in which it's being done is legal and constitutional, because it's just not. It's just not. And well, it's time for change and we need change. Go through the channels. If you don't like our system here, leave, right? Isn't that what MAGA always says to me? Well, if you don't like it here, you can leave. I would say the same to you. If you don't like going through Congress and the proper channels, well, leave. Go somewhere where there's a dictatorship. There's plenty of them in the world. So go there. Anyway, I'm feeling very salty, very spicy. I don't care who disagrees with me. I don't care. I mean, I've been banning people. Holy cow. For the past 90 days, I've been banning people like crazy from my Facebook page, which I don't even care. I'm not required to provide you a platform for your bullshit. I'm really not. And I don't want you in my orbit. I'm removed most people who support this from my personal life. So I'm certainly not going to allow a stranger to come into, I always say my Facebook page for my business is kind of like the lobby or the living room of my business. And if I wouldn't allow you to sit in my lobby or my living room and say this, I'm not required to let you say it on my Facebook page. So, I was very disappointed. The National Council of Severe Autism has been posting a few things about Medicaid and whatnot. And they said, well, we're bipartisan. We're not political. We stand on policy, not personality. And that's maybe a nice thing to say and a non-confrontational way of putting it. But we can't just dismiss these things as a personality difference. Because again, it's a dictatorship. It's overstepping his legal authority. It's money buying what they want. Because make no mistake, right? I don't know if MAGA voters still think that some of this money is going to go in your pocket, but it's not. It didn't last time. The tax cuts of 2017 did not affect probably anyone who's listening to this, because unless your household made over $400,000 a year, you didn't get a tax cut. So I don't know why you think that you did, because you didn't. So I don't expect one this time. And I know when I was posting election stuff, summer and fall leading up to the election, every time I would post something that was anti-Project 2025, oh, he doesn't believe in that. He didn't say that. He doesn't believe in Project 2025, and he's not going to do that. And that's not him. And that's fear mongering. It's time to admit that you were wrong, because the authors and architects of Project 2025 are now in his administration. And the things that they are doing are in Project 2025. So you can't really say that he's not for Project 2025 when he took all the authors and the architects, put them in his administration, and now they're implementing it. It's just happening. And I just hope that, honestly, I do believe that good is going to win. I just hope that it happens peacefully, because I know that people on both sides are truly preparing for a civil war. And that's not meant to fearmonger or increase anyone's anxiety. It's just, I'm just telling you that we have more guns than people in this country. And it's naive to think that only MAGA owns all the guns, because it's almost mathematically impossible for that to be. And people are scared, and they're getting ready, and they do believe that there's going to be a race war or a civil war. And I don't blame anyone for wanting to protect themselves and their family. Anyway, hang in there. Again, go to Facebook and go to look for Stepping Up for Disabled Kids. That's going to be our political action group. There's a section on my blog called Stepping Up for Disabled Kids. So you can look for that. And I have action items, and I'm putting up like email templates and how to contact your people so that we can voice our concerns and have our opinions be heard. We're just going to have to absolutely flood them with this. And I know it's tiring. I know it's exhausting. I know you don't want to do it. I know, there's a zillion things that we'd rather be doing, but we have to do this because our families and our kids depend on it. So hang in there. I'm here whenever you guys need me. And thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to Don't IEP Alone with Special Education Advocate Lisa Lightner. We're so glad you've joined us and would love to connect with you outside of the show. For more information about Lisa, the IEP Toolkit, and more ways we can help you in your process, go to adayinourshoes.com. From self-care tips to common IEP mistakes, there's even more to explore. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast and subscribe to never miss an episode. Until next time, don't IEP alone. And you don't have to.